Welcome to the Books Bible Study. We are continuing in the book of Exodus. Today we are on Exodus chapter 23. We are over halfway done with the book of Exodus. Yay. So in the last chapter we ended at 58 laws. We will add up how many are in this chapter as well to see how many we end up with. So Exodus chapter 23 verse 1. You shall not circulate a false report. Do not put your hand with the wicked to be an unrighteous witness. So no lies. Verse 2. You shall not follow a crowd to do evil, nor shall you testify in a dispute so as to turn aside after many to pervert justice. We have to be just. Verse 3. You shall not show partiality to a poor man in his dispute. So this means just because of someone's economic status or just because they may be dealing with poverty, you don't judge him more harsh because someone else has more wealth, right? Verse 4. If you meet your enemy's ox or his donkey going astray, you shall surely bring it back to him again. Verse 5. If you see the donkey of one who hates you lying under its burden, and you would refrain from helping it, you shall surely help him with it. Verse 6. You shall not pervert the judgment of your poor in his dispute. So we're starting to see quite a few laws pertaining to the less fortunate, those that may not have much, right? So we can definitely tell that God cares about their fairness. And we could also tell that we have a propensity to kind of demean or diminish them in certain ways, but God is definitely against that. So verse 7 says, keep yourself far from a false matter. Do not kill the innocent and righteous, for I will not justify the wicked. Verse 8, and you shall take no bribe, for a bribe blinds the discerning and perverts the words of the righteous. So it is not discernment if you were bribed to be quiet, right, or bribed to side with a certain person, right? That is not discernment, because it tells us that a bribe will blind the discerning, okay, and pervert the words of the righteous. So verse 9 says, also you shall not oppress a stranger, for you know the heart of a stranger, because you were strangers in the land of Egypt. Verse 10, 6 years you shall sow your land and gather in its produce. Verse 11, but the 7th year you shall let it rest and lie fallow, so that the poor of your people may eat, and what they leave the beasts of the field may eat. In like manner you shall do with your vineyard and your olive grove. Again, making sure you're taking care of the poor where you are. Verse 12, 6 days you shall do your work, and on the 7th day you shall rest, that your ox and your donkey may rest, and the son of your female servant and the stranger may be refreshed. Verse 13, and in all that I have said to you, be circumspect and make no mention of the name of other gods, nor let it be heard from your mouth, right? And to be circumspect means to watch carefully. You are to make sure that you make no mention of the names of other gods, nor let it be heard from your mouth. Okay. Verse 14 says, 3 times you shall keep a feast to me in the year. 15, you shall keep the feast of unleavened bread. You shall eat unleavened bread 7 days, as I commanded you, at the time appointed in the month of Abib. For in it you came out of Egypt. None shall appear before me empty. Verse 16. And the feast of harvest, the first fruits of your labors, which you have sown in the field, and the feast of ingathering at the end of the year, when you have gathered in the fruit of your labors from the field. Verse 17. 3 times in the year all males shall appear before the Lord God. And we see that this is a cultural thing, right? Verse 18, you shall not offer the blood of my sacrifice with leavened bread, nor shall the fat of my sacrifice remain until morning. Verse 19, the first of the first fruits of your land you shall bring into the house of the Lord your God. You shall not boil a young goat in its mother's milk. So boiling a young goat, this could mean, not sacrificing the young animal until they're weaned from their mother's milk, or this could be referring to a practice that the Egyptians had to sprinkle the milk over the crops for a greater harvest. But so it would be basically wasting the mother's milk for this superstition. Verse 20 says, behold, I send an angel before you to keep you in the way and to bring you into the place which I have prepared. right? So he's sending a messenger before them to keep them, okay, and to bring them right to the place that he has prepared for them, right? This is what our God does. Verse 21, he says, beware of him and obey his voice. Do not provoke him, for he will not pardon your transgressions, for my name is in him. Verse 22, he says, but if you, remember we talked about the ifs, but if you indeed obey his voice and do all that I speak, then I will be an enemy to your enemies and an adversary to your adversaries, right? So you can pray that God will be an enemy to my enemies and an adversary to my adversary, but the first part is you have to obey his voice, right? So that's what gives us the second half of that. Verse 23 says, for my angel will go before you and bring you in to the Amorites and the Hittites and the Perizzites and the Canaanites and the Hivites and the Jebusites, and I will cut them off. Verse 24, you shall not bow down to their gods, nor serve them, nor do according to their works, but you shall utterly overthrow them and completely break down their sacred pillars. Verse 25, so you shall serve the Lord your God, and he will bless your bread and your water, and I will take sickness away from the midst of you. Verse 26, no one shall suffer miscarriage or be barren in your land. I will fulfill the number of your days. So here we see problem and solution, right? The problem would be sickness, miscarriage, barrenness, or a shorter life, right? It seems that if you serve the Lord, it says these things will not be allowed. He will take these things from you, right? Serve the Lord alone, and do not bow to the other gods. So if you are experiencing these specific type of things in your family, be absolutely certain that there's nothing that you have allowed to have authority over you or that you worship and bow to, right? And this includes doing the acts that people have done, right? So you can't do their works either. So doing the acts that people have done to worship other gods. The only acts of worship that we do are the acts that pleases our God, right? We're not doing any other acts that pleases the other God or that is a sacrifice to a foreign God. So whatever you're doing, you need to ask God, where did this originate from, right? Some of the things that we do as married couples, right? It didn't originate in those special movies that you used to watch when you were a sinner, right? Ask God to reveal every source of idolatry and every act that is not sanctioned by him. Because a lot of those things being done were done as acts of worship to other gods. And God does not approve of that, right? So ask him, because he will definitely show you. Verse 27, he says, I will send my fear before you. I will cause confusion among all the people to whom you come, and will make all your enemies turn their backs to you. Verse 28, and I will send hornets before you, which shall drive out the Hivite, the Canaanite, and the Hittite from before you. Verse 29, I will not drive them out from before you in 1 year, lest the land become desolate and the beasts of the field become too numerous for you. Right? So he says, verse 30, little by little I will drive them out from before you until you have increased and you inherit the land. So he can't, if he wipes out the land completely of them, there's no one to till the land, right? So the land will become desolate. There's no one to kill the animals. So the animals would become large in number. So he's doing this in a way where they will be prosperous, right? And so sometimes we don't like to wait. Or right, so if you see the thing that God promised would be far from you, ask him, okay, what is it that you're doing, right? Before you just say, oh, God is not doing what he said he would do, okay? Verse 31 says, and I will set your bounds from the Red Sea to the Sea Philistia, and from the desert to the river. For I will deliver the inhabitants of the land into your hand, and you shall drive them out before you. Right? So, yes, it was their responsibility. When he bring them to the place, he's letting them know that they will be into your hand, but it's your responsibility to drive them out. Verse 32 says, you shall make no covenant with them nor with their gods, which is why they needed to be driven out, right? Because remember, a little leaven leavens the whole lump. Verse 33 says, they shall not dwell in your land, lest they make you sin against me. For if you serve their gods, it will surely be a snare to you. And if you've read any parts of the Bible before, especially the Old Testament, you will see how the moment that they allowed them to stay in the land, what happened with the children of Israel. So whenever a group of people come to a place, and when I say group, it could be a family, migration, anything like that, what do you see happen, right? Do they make an altar to God and drive out the wickedness, right? Or does the wickedness begin to overtake the children of God, right? So this chapter, we had about 23 laws, and we add that with the 58. And we're only doing the commandments from Exodus chapter 20, which starts with the 10 commandments. So you add the 23 from this chapter with the 58 from Exodus chapters 20 through 22. And so now we're at 81 laws. Which really, all of the ones after chapter 20 is just showing how to apply the 10. Really, it's just getting a little bit more specific. But we are to pay attention to the moral laws. The cultural laws, those were for the Israelites, right? But the moral laws definitely apply still now, today, which you should already be doing, right? Especially if you have decided to call Jesus Christ your Lord and Savior, right? So that concludes Exodus chapter 23. We'll move on to chapter 24. If there's any more laws, we will add them in. If not, we will continue to see what happens with the children of Israel. God bless.